Danny is here. Tim is here. Everybody's in a very excited mood for early football, which is quite the opposite of last week. We played the early game today. Last week, of course, 42-10 over the Cowboys. We'll review that. The Cleveland Browns have a ton of injuries, especially on the offensive side. We'll get into that and what kind of a game. We'll get back to the Cowboys in just a second, and we'll look back at that first. But game like this, you guys are so professional, and this team seems very similar that they're missing their right tackle, Jack Conklin. They're missing their left guard, Joel Petonio. They're missing their running back, Nick Chubb. Deshaun Watson is out. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the former UCLA Bruin, played last week, was not very good. So P.J. Walker.
Ago. They were on a bye last week.
Yeah, that's right. 2 weeks ago. P.J. Walker is going to start. So when you walk into a game like this and you see all these injuries, is it easy to just kind of buck human nature and say this is still going to be a really tough game?
I mean, well, that's what you would hope for, right? I mean, and it goes down to the leadership. You know, you have to, who in the locker room, guys have to be focused. You have to understand that you're on the road, and you know, and the Browns would love to have that upset. You know, they would love to win at home. Everybody wants to win at home, but you got to be focused. And with a team, you know, with injuries like this, especially missing, you know, Chubbs, the running back, and then Watson, the quarterback. If you get in there and you smack him in the mouth early, this game could be over early, but you have to go and you have to execute. You have to execute the game plan. You got to be focused, and it's a business trip. And that was always taught to us that it was a business trip. You go in, you do what you got to do, get out, get on an airplane, and get home.
I feel like Cleveland reminds you. I feel like at every turn that it's a business trip. I feel like there's not a lot of opportunities to be reminded that it's not a business trip, or like to think that it's not a business trip. You know what I mean?
I would agree.
Have you been to Cleveland?
No, Dad's from Cleveland. From Akron. Yeah,
Akron. Yeah. Well, Cleveland's not a bad town. I mean, it just I would live there, but it's a town, right? It's just,
right.
I think I played there a couple times, and Monday night game, and it's a nice little downtown. I mean, it's not the prettiest city in the world.
It's not Miami.
It's not Miami.
Not Miami.
It's not San Francisco. But it's a nice little town. I don't know. It's a nice little.
The Factory of Sadness. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
The Factory.
A mistake by the lake. Niners at Cleveland at a 10 a.m. kick. We'll be with you till 9 a.m. But yeah, you're right, Dennis. Like I feel like there are things that happen throughout this week, and I sort of wonder with teams like this, like the 49ers, that are so much better coming off a win. Now, from like a gambling standpoint, and Tom Tolbert was saying this to me this week on our show. At one point, he kind of caught me off guard. Like, you're kind of half listening to somebody say something, and he goes, yeah, I really like the position that the Browns are in, the situation that they're in. And I was like, what do you mean you like the situation that they're in? He said, well, Niners, they're coming off a bye. Niners haven't left California since week 1, right? They go to play Pittsburgh, and really they've left California twice since the start of like training camp, Dennis. Like they went to Vegas for the week 1 of the preseason, but it was like a joint practice, right? So It wasn't like you were gone for a game. You were there. You were kind of like, you don't leave the time zone. It's an hour flight. Like you're there for a few days. Talk about a business trip. They were hanging in Vegas for a few days, right? Like trying to get ready for the season. Then they're home for 2 preseasons. You get a bye week. You go to Pittsburgh for really 2 days? Those trips are there quick, right? They went to, and they came right back because they played L.A. week 2. So then they're in L.A. They came right back the same day. You don't even go down to stay down there for all that long. Then you're home for 3 weeks. So there's all these variables, including the rain. Then you don't have Deshaun Watson. So it's funny when people go, yeah, if this is the opportunity for people to go, well, it could be a trap game for the Niners. And I look at it and I say, there's no reason whatsoever, rain or shine, based on the talent on the field that the Niners, and I do think that Cleveland has a good defense. Don't get me wrong. That's not a thing.
They do have good defense.
They do have a good defense. They've got a fantastic defense. And this is going to be a different type of pass rusher in Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith, too, on the other side, that Trent Williams has seen this year. I mean, he's a much different type of player than, like, Micah Parsons. Now, guy's a Hall of Famer. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch, the Trent Williams and Myles Garrett, one who hasn't gone up against him at all. I heard you guys playing that sound earlier this week, John, but I look at Cleveland kind of the way I looked at Dallas last week coming in, where, yeah, they've got an elite defense. They're number 1 against the pass. They're number 1 in total yards. They're top 5 in basically every defensive category. However, they've played just 4 games because they had the bye last week, and they've played, in terms of offenses, virtually nobody. Cincinnati week 1, which was when they were awful, right? They're looking to turn it around. After last week, they had a big week. Big offensive performance. They get Seattle at home today. Then they go at Pittsburgh. Then they played versus Tennessee and then against Baltimore, who did have a good offensive output. So that's the best offense they've seen, and they gave up 27 points. They lost 27-3. So I think Cleveland is going to be fine. I think they're win healthy. I think Deshaun Watson poses a threat. Without Watson in this game and P.J. Walker going, I've been calling him Madam P.J. Walker just because I think it's a funny riff for my C.J. Walker fans out there. Anybody? No? Nobody? See, it's still too early for a Madam C.J. Walker joke. On an NFL Sunday. Anyway, I think P.J. Walker is going to have a really, really tough time against this pass rush. especially in bad weather potentially to put up some points. And you're going to need, I think, at least. Even in rain like this, I think you're going to need 24, right? Are we looking at rain? They said rain yesterday, and I don't think I saw
they're saying monsoon at one
Weatherman
point, right?
Mayoko saying wind but no rain, but wind is, as you can attest to, Dennis, wind is worse than rain.
We'll go to the KNBR Weather Center with Mayoko in a bit. Yeah.
Because now it's affecting everything. So now it comes down to a run game potentially because you're not throwing the ball, especially deep down the field.
You think the Niners can put up points to the run game?
I think they might be able to. But again, this could be one of those numbers, and I think that from a number standpoint, after they said P.J. Walker and all these different guys were out, it sprouted to 10. But if it's a run game, Cleveland's good. I mean, they can do that. So this game scares me a little bit only because you're up so much for Dallas in, it's Sunday Night Football, and then you beat them, and then there's kind of a letdown, especially with all the injuries with Cleveland. But this team is so good, I think. They kind of have the mentality, Dennis, that your team's had, which is doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's Sunday night, doesn't matter if it's Sunday morning, doesn't matter if it's Cleveland, doesn't matter if it's Dallas. Like, that's just how it goes.
It's a test, though, right? I mean, when you talk about, I was saying about the leadership. I mean, this is when you kind of really test your character. I mean, you beat a team like Dallas at home, you blow them out, and then you got a team that's coming out, like you said, Cobes, coming off a bye. They really have nothing to lose. I mean, they want to win, but
they're
it's
at
like,
home,
they're at home. They're like, you know what? Everyone's got us down. We're injured. So it's the challenge is going to be for the 49ers. Can you get up for this football game? I mean, can you go on the road? Can you get up? It's going to be wind. It's going to be cold. Can you get up and play outside of California? So, I mean, the challenge is not going to be on the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be on the San Francisco 49ers to get themselves up.
Well, like you said, the thing about leadership, when I talked to Tim Ryan on Friday on our show, he had said the same thing. We were talking about George Kittle and the way he spoke about Brock Purdy this week and just the tone in which guys talk and the guys who sort of have a chip on their shoulder after what happened in 2019. There's very few guys who are still here, but a lot of them have that feeling of unfinished business. A lot of them have that feeling of getting to the mountaintop and not quite finishing the job. So one of those guys, Brock Purdy. That brings us to our quarterback comparison as we were just talking about P.J. Walker. Seriously, guys, nothing on C.J. Walker. Time for QB comparison, sponsored by Friedman's Appliance, proudly serving all of Northern California with a wide selection of luxury appliances. Visit them in Pleasant Hill to see the Friedman's difference, and by Dolce Vita Tequila. Tequila, pure and simple. Brock Purdy last week, fantastic. Continues to impress. 4 touchdowns, 17-24. 252 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, as I said, in the game. He got sacked 1 time. George Kittle had 3 touchdown receptions. P.J. Walker going to make his 16th career start for P.J. Walker. Got out of the XFL, played in Carolina last year. So what's interesting about him here is, and he's got a nearly 60% completion percentage last season he did in Carolina. By the way, under Steve Wilkes. That's the interesting part here. 3 touchdowns, 3 picks last season. Says he can use his legs a little bit. That's some of the scouting report, but he's not like a straight runner. I think he ran the ball 6 times or something last year for 6 yards. Like they're not going to, Carolina was terrible, but he's not going to break out and beat you for 40, 50, 60 yards. He's not going to do really, I don't believe, what Josh Dobbs did. I think he's more of a guy who can extend. Now, to your point, John, in the rain like this, or not in the rain, in the wind like this, sometimes the legs are going to help you a little bit more. Get to some spots where you can make some shorter passes, but in the wind with a mobile guy, what's that combination do, Dennis, for an edge rusher?
Well, you got to have contained rush, right? You have to be very disciplined in your rush. And this is, if it's going to be windy and it's going to be a run game, you got a quarterback that's semi-mobile. I mean, we all know that the 49ers always have issues with mobile quarterbacks. So you're going to test that edge. You're going to try to get on the outside, on the perimeter, and try to make plays on the outside. So it's just contained rush, but the most important, the contained rush is important, but that rush up the middle is also super important, especially with a guy like P.J. Walker. I mean, you get in his face and you get some bodies and some arms and some hands kind of swatting at him a little bit. He's going to try to break contain a little bit, and then you got, you got the Nick Bosa, and who's going to be out on the other side? We're going to see if it's going to be Drake Jackson or the new guy Gregory coming in.
He's going to play a little bit, they said.
Hopefully,
yeah.
I'm excited to see him play. I think he is the guy that should be on the other side, the guy that we've been kind of waiting for on the other side. So, I mean, you just got to be focused on your pass rush lanes. And if it's going to come down to using your legs or the run game because of the weather, you got to have those pass rush lanes covered so you can't get those plays down the field.
I think a game like this, mistakes. And the one thing, it continues to be said about Brock Purdy, for all the superlatives we can give him, the number one thing for Kyle is he doesn't make mistakes and he doesn't turn the ball over. So, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions against Dallas.
Rock steady, bro.
And, yeah, bro. And so, that's got to continue because this could, if you get wind, it doesn't look like it's going to be rain. It looks like it's going to hold off till after the game. But if you get a lot of wind, that means you're going to have to change the game plan a little bit. The ball's not going to go down the field so much. Run game, controlled passing game. I like Brock Purdy, obviously, in a game like that versus a guy like P.J. Walker, who Steve Wilkes knows. And like you said, he may try to get out of the pocket. They understand. I know Greg is a fan of P.J. Walker. He was trying to be the Bears' backup quarterback, and he lost the competition. For his career, he's got twice.
The Chicago Bears?
Yeah, he was in Bears camp this obviously, and then they picked him up the last minute, and they traded Josh Dobbs, which looks like a stupid
bizarre
mistake.
that they did that too.
Yeah, they traded Josh Dobbs to Arizona, who's looked pretty good, and then they picked up Walker from the Bears, and Walker has twice as many interceptions as he does touchdowns in his career, and he was in the USFL, and that's how he got a shot at the NFL. So, look, this kind of defense for the 49ers, they should be able to control this guy. And they don't have a ton, like you said. Offensively, they don't have Nick Chubb. They're banged up on the offensive line. It's going to be fun to see Randy Gregory. I think he's going to be a third down guy today. I think there's some intricacies that he does that I've heard that he doesn't.
That's good. Let's get him a little confidence. Get him into some spots where he can find some comfortable spaces, and then you expand the role.
Yeah, right. And then, DeJuan Jones is the right tackle. He's a massive kid, fourth-round pick out of Ohio State. He's still finding his way. And then at left tackle, Jedrick Wills was a guy that a lot of people liked coming out of Alabama, and he just hasn't gotten it done. At left tackle, you're missing your guard. There's opportunities for these guys to eat today.
Well, a lot of firsts for the 49ers in a while for today. They hit the road, leave California for the first time since week 1. The Niners also, a couple of streaks that we'll tell you about that they're looking to extend. A regular season winning streak that we'll tell you about when we come on back. Christian McCaffrey looking to extend his touchdown streak and tie an NFL record today. Brock Purdy has yet to throw an interception. I don't think he's going to get to the consecutive passes attempted mark without the pick that was it Aaron Rodgers got to a few years ago, 402 or something, and then Tom Brady came right up next to it last year. We're not quite there yet, but 9 touchdowns, no picks for Purdy. We'll talk more about this one, and we will get you the weather report when we go out to the KNBR Weather Center, which is on the road this week in Cleveland. Matt Mayoka will give us the local weather report, and we'll find out some of the health situations for the 49ers. Adam Copeland, John Lund, Dennis Brown, the Super Bowl champion here from the KNBR studios in downtown San Francisco. Niners and the Browns coming your way at 10 a.m. 9 a.m. We'll throw it over to Greg Papa and Tim Ryan. By the way, we are streaming live, YouTube, Twitch, KNBR.com. If you're up and you want to watch TV, and we're the guys you want on your TV while you're watching the London game, you know where to find us. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund on the Sports Leader.
He's like a lethal killer. He really is. It's really impressive, just his dedication to it, how he works, and like. But you when he gets in the huddle, he's like a different person. You know, in the locker room and stuff, he's got this like cheerfulness to him. Like I don't want to say young kid, but he just got that to him. And then the second he gets on a football field, it's all business, and I just really appreciate that.
It's hard to keep track of Kittle this week, right? What was he doing?
All over the place. He did McAfee.
Yeah, he was on the morning show here.
Did Pelt
McAfee.
Too, right?
He was defending Brock at a really high level on a couple of certain occasions. But that happens when you catch 3 touchdown passes, which illustrates how good their offense is. Oh, you're going to try to take away McCaffrey, which is what Dallas's game plan essentially was, beat up McCaffrey, take him out of the offense a little bit. And the Niners went, okay, we'll just throw 3 touchdowns to George Kittle, and that's what's tough. Cleveland's great defensively, but that's the problem is, okay, Cleveland's going to go into this game going, okay, we need to take McCaffrey out. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But then, okay, Brandon Ayuk and Debo, and it's just like other guys can go off. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's got to be a nightmare for a defensive coordinator, right? I mean, Dallas is like, yeah, we'll neutralize Christian McCaffrey, and then you look up and you got a tight end getting 3 touchdowns, and you got another wide receiver in Brandon Ayuk who's catching, he's getting 100 yards on you. Then you got, you got a running back. Another running back, and you get a running back off the bench, and he's like the leading rusher of the day. So,
JP Mason was the team in rushing last week.
So it's got to be tough to defend the 40. And then Kyle Shanahan does such a good job of kind of scheming you too, right? I mean, he's figured out that, you're focusing on Christian McCaffrey. Hey, my tight end might be there. So, it's got to be a tough team to play against and try to defend. And you're right. I mean, I think only team that's going to beat the 49ers are the 49ers. They're lucky with injuries. We just talked about that. But if they don't come out and you don't play the game, execute the offense, there's no one else who's going to beat them. No.
I don't even know that they could beat themselves. I think it is an injury thing. I really do. Like I don't know that you could. You'd have to legitimately, like Brock Purdy would have to throw like numerous interceptions. They'd have to fumble. You'd have to turn it over numerous times.
Weather. I mean, today's going to have wind, but it doesn't look like rain. I mean, those kind of things kind of equal the playing field a little bit. Or
so
level,
more variables are the things you want to stay away from in football. And it's funny because in football, it's the sport where we definitely try to, like, it's either the most drastic hot take on something, or me personally, I wait the longest I can to reserve judgment because you want to give yourself an out, like, this is the greatest team we've seen, then they get hit in the mouth. So, thing about last week is they beat a team that everybody believed in the Cowboys were pretty darn good. I still think the Cowboys are probably a playoff team. I also don't believe the NFC is that good. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's not enough week to week, I think, head-to-head competition, which is going to make it tough for the Niners because you look at the schedule and you go, well, what's the gettable game for them? What's the one where somebody could get them? Depending on what Cincinnati does today, I think today's a fun game for Cincinnati and Seattle to keep an eye on both of those teams, different conferences.
Burrow's getting healthy.
Seattle's off a bye. They kind of want to prove that they're still around. They look terrible week 1. They've looked a lot better since. They lost to the Rams. And the Rams, by the way, all of a sudden, with Cooper Kupp coming back, their offense looks a whole lot more dangerous. But I think for teams that could get the Niners, I mean, they come here, does Cincinnati. That's going to be a tough one for them in a couple of weeks. Niners go to Minnesota. They're not missing Justin Jefferson. So maybe that's a game. I don't know, just a high-octane offensive game. But because there's so many weapons on both sides of the ball, it's not just about trying to stop Christian McCaffrey and bottle him up. It's can you come back on the other side and put together I don't know, 2 first downs on one drive. I mean, the Niners' drives that they're holding other teams to are ridiculous. I think what has to happen for Cleveland here is they've got to try to put together a game in the way that Arizona did. Niners had 8 offensive drives in that game. They scored 6 touchdowns. They had 8 offensive drives, right? You've got to mitigate the number of drives they have to try to keep it a close game versus last week where would they have 13 or something like that?
Yeah, it was crazy. Let's give you the health report. This is an interesting one. It's sponsored by our good friends at Danville Neuropathy Center, bringing your nerve pain to an end. So I know we don't want to go back to a year, but in this very week last year, they lost 28-14 to Atlanta, did the 49ers, to tell you how important health is. They should have easily beaten them. Marcus Mariota hit his first 13 passes. Out of that game, Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, Emmanuel Mosley, Jimmy Ward, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa. It tells you how much injuries level the playing field.
9 defensive starters are missing that
right.
game.
And then you look at Cleveland today, missing a ton of guys offensively. Currently, the 49ers injured reserve is this: Cam Latu, Sam Womack, Danny Gray, Darrell Luter Jr., and Robert Beal Jr. Those guys, about 3 of those guys are taking redshirt years because they're rookies. I mean, that's just how it is. And if you think about the rest of the league, Aaron Rodgers, Nick Chubb, Jack Conklin, Trevon Diggs, Barkley, Kupp, James Conner just went down, J.K. Dobbins, Matt Milano. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And the 49ers have had bad injury luck over the last number of years. And so, again, they'd probably be 5-0, even with a couple of injuries. That's how good this team is. But you combine how good they are with having the injury luck that they've had to this point in the season, and they're pretty much an unstoppable force. I mean, if you look at Cleveland, if they had Deshaun Watson or Jack Conklin or Joel Bitonio or, go on down the line, they're missing a ton of guys, and you just can't go through the league. You can be a really good team, but 2019, the 49ers go to the Super Bowl. 2020, they don't have a chance because they went to New York and they lost Bosa and Solomon Thomas and Jimmy Garoppolo. That's where his injuries started that year. It's just, they're going to happen. It's just a matter of when they happen and to who they happen and who you're playing that week. Because right now, unless the 49ers play a horrible game today, it's going to be really tough for the Cleveland Browns to score points because of the injuries that they're sustaining along the offensive line and at the most key position, quarterback.
And you pair that with the defense, it's like, what are we doing, Dennis? How are we going to get in the end zone today against one of the best scoring teams in football?
Yeah, and you're right. They've been lucky. I mean, and the way the 49ers play, downhill, the running backs, the physical style of football, there's going to be injuries. But like you said, John, it's just kind of when they're going to happen, because they're going to happen, and who they are, and what's your second tier. Who's going to step in there, be the next man up. We always talk about next man up, but whoever's next man up, I think the 49ers are so deep in so many different key positions that they can overcome that. But injury is going to happen because these guys play physical football out there. So it depends on when it happens and who it happens to, and who has to step up to fill that gap.
And for the 49ers offensive line, just real quick here, Aaron Banks was back at practice this week. He was limited, I think, initially, and then came off the practice report, right? He's a full go as of Thursday, so he's going to be good to go. We thought it was what did we think initially? That it was like an elbow or something like that, or a wrist, shoulder. And it ended up being a shoulder.
Yeah, that's what they announced.
He's okay, yeah.
So that's huge. And the other one that popped up kind of late in the week, and he's been banged up a little bit, is Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah, hamstring.
And he's, the compliment that those two have, where Fred Warner right now is just playing all world, and last week against Dallas, you pop up, can he be Defensive Player of the Year as a linebacker? It hasn't happened since Luke Kuechly in 2013. It's normally reserved, as Dennis would like, to defensive linemen. The edge guys are defensive linemen who put up big sack numbers. But when you have
Stephon Gilmore is sort of the outlier.
He did it
recently.
in 19, I think.
A couple of years ago, yeah.
But when you have a forced fumble, an interception, a sack, the kind of influence that he had on the game last week, and then it's Dre Greenlaw running around crazy. I mean, I thought early in that Dallas game there was a late hit, looked like a late hit out of bounds, and they've been kind of watching him, officials. He got away with it. But, I mean, they make a compliment. I don't want to go to Willis and Bowman yet or some of the great linebacker cores, like you guys had. But the way the game is played today and the way those guys play, they don't miss tackles. Everything, a lot of the passing game, especially, this is what I expect out of Cleveland today. Quick hitters, get rid of the ball, don't let the pass rush get to you, which means you guys got to be able to tackle. And I don't know who tackles as far as a linebacking crew or a duo better than those two guys.
Listen, and Dre Greenlaw, he's a tone setter, right? I mean, he'll start the game, he'll pop you. I mean, I think now you're the point where, like, we might get a penalty, but you're going to set the tone, and that's what you want your linebacker to do, is set that tone for the day on defense. And Fred Warner, like you said last week, he kind of took over the football game, and he's becoming a really good blitzer. I mean, he gets to the quarterback, and he doesn't miss. I mean, he wraps up. He doesn't flash by. He doesn't miss tackles.
When he face guarded Dak. Remember that? He got him into open space a little bit, and he and Dak tried to pump fake him, and he was like, all right, I'll just crumble into myself here. Yeah. Just come and hit me. Just come hit. It's sort of
when he jumps and the fake does nothing and he falls perfect, lands and makes the tackle. And that's athleticism right there. And that's what that's what he is. That's what Warner is.
Remember Austin Powers 3 when Michael Caine just walks up to that one dude. He's like, "Look at you, you're an anonymous henchman." He's like, "Just fall down. I'm not even gonna hit you." He's like, "You're just a nameless guy." It's kind of what it felt like when Fred Warner just ran up to Dak. He's like, "Just go down, dude. I'm gonna lay you out." 49ers and the Browns coming your way, a 10 a.m. kickoff. We'll have it for you right here on the Sports Leader. Thanks everybody checking in on the YouTube stream. See all you guys hanging out there. 808 KNBR is the number to text if you got a thought here on the 49ers, or you want to check in on the YouTube stream, knbr.com or Twitch. You can check all of that out. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lund hanging with you here at the KNBR studios in San Francisco. We will go out and talk to Matt Mayoko here in just a few minutes. He's going to be live from the broadcast booth in Cleveland. We'll do that next on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, like I said, I think he just needs to get the scheme down, which will take hopefully a couple days. It's not too complicated, but just getting the nuances of it down, and then I think he'll be able to set the edge as good as anybody we have. And we obviously have him here because he could rush.
That's Nick Bosa. Matt Mayoko just took video of George Kittle and Nick Bosa getting into the stadium in Cleveland, and George Kittle had a much nicer shirt on today than he did last week, and he got fined for that. Thanks for joining us. Adam Copeland is here, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, John Lund.
Wait. He wore that shirt out?
No, just
from last
week?
The
one? No, he didn't wear that one. He wore a different one.
Okay, I'm
nice.
like, wait a minute.
I'm going to set Matty to talk about it, but Matt
talking about
Mayoko
the Kittle
shirt? Yeah, he's got a different sweatshirt today. He's much nicer.
Matt was wearing an F Cleveland T-shirt I saw when he got off the plane.
Yeah, he won't get
not the Browns, just Cleveland. It said it was weird.
Cleveland,
anyway,
period.
I was like, that's sort of harsh, Matt.
Yeah. All right, let's get the weather report and everything else. The latest on injuries and the such. Our good friend Matt Mayoko joins us, of course, NBC Sports Bay Area. You will see him And also, great job on the 49ers Talk podcast. Joins us courtesy of the Uma guest line. What's happening?
What's up, Matt?
Nothing too much. It's not supposed to rain today in Cleveland, but I'm told because of the location of the stadium, the weather report does not apply to the stadium like it applies to the rest of the city. And you know what I responded? You know what I said?
Eat me? That's what I would say. Like, what are we doing?
It's because it's by the lake.
Ah.
And so when I was told this, I said, "Whoa,
It's a candlestick?
that's eerie."
Oh, thank you, Matt. Thank you. That's eerie. I like that. I like that. I'll give it to you. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
Thank you.
I'm gonna tip my cap. These guys are ignoring. I'll give you one, dude. These guys ignored me like 15 minutes ago. It was 20 minutes ago. 7:07, and I rolled with a Madam.
I know, you gotta-
Madam PJ Walker joke. I got no
ease in.
reaction, dude. No reaction on Madam PJ Walker, but.
Still
Here we
not
go.
getting
Still
any
nothing.
reaction.
See,
He's
this is the
trying it
fourth
again.
time I'm trying again. I'm gonna keep doing it.
7:33.
I'm waiting for
Put it
somebody.
out there.
Waiting for somebody to bite, dude. See, I gotta get Dennis.
Let me try that. Let me try that again, Copes. Ooh,
I said eerie. Yeah.
I liked it.
Matt
That was
Mayoko
nice.
is he's not the mistake by the lake. He's going to do a good job today. I'm sure of it. Anyway, so we're not looking at serious weather, but then by the lake, what are they expecting? Is it
But
wind,
you
right?
didn't listen to me. I said the weather for Cleveland
Doesn't apply.
calls for no rain, but it does not apply to the stadium.
so what does so where do we find that weather report?
That's
What do we
so
get?
eerie.
I think we just have to live that weather.
Okay,
I think
all right.
We have to, because I see guys out there. It's not raining in Cleveland, but I see people running around in hoodies outside.
Ooh.
So I don't know. Again, I'm not going to say it again.
Can
I'll say it.
Thank you. Say it again. There you go. Yeah.
Siri.
So anyway, but it doesn't look like it's going to be horrible. What the bigger factor probably will be is the wind. Right now, it's not blowing too hard, but it's supposed to pick up as the day goes on.
Okay.
So
That's
PJ
pretty-
Walker's going. PJ Walker, he's probably thinking, I want it to be blowing 50 miles an hour, so no one can blame me for having 0 passing yards.
Yeah,
It'll be like that Patriots Bills game where Mac Jones threw it like 3 times.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
was crazy.
That NFC Championship when Jimmy threw like 8.
Yeah, that's
That
good.
wasn't because of the
I
wind.
don't
though.
think the weather was.
That was
a
different.
factor
That was a
there.
different reason.
The only,
Yeah.
the
Please
only
don't throw
win
the ball,
that
Jimmy.
day, the only win that day was prompted by Raheem Mostert running 23
The
miles an hour.
blaze that he was
through the
torching
Packers.
through Levi Stadium.
So before you came on, we heard Nick Bosa talking about Randy Gregory coming in and kind of, he's excited to have, him and his pass rushing ability. What can we expect to see from Randy Gregory today? I know he came into camp to the facility on Monday. What can we expect from him this week?
I would expect him to play, situational pass rusher, only third downs, rushing the passer maybe 15 to 20, times in this game. I think probably, I would suspect that, they'll give Drake Jackson the first opportunity on third downs and then maybe bring Gregory in a little bit after that. And then I think once Chris Kosaric and Steve Wilkes see how Drake Jackson fared and compare that with how Randy Gregory is doing, then I think they make the decision, for this game to just kind of go with whoever looks like he's getting off the line of scrimmage quicker. But no, I think it's really a nothing to lose situation for the 49ers. I mean, they brought in Randy Gregory, did not have to give up much as far as a draft pick to get him. It was just a swap, a 7th round pick for a 6th round pick. And then also the salary, not much at all. It's just bringing in basically a veteran minimum salary for the rest of the season. And so I think they feel the same way, like, with the on-the-field part of it, too, is the 49ers defense is already pretty darn good, and it can get better, and this gives them an opportunity to get better at the one position that probably it hasn't produced the way they would like it to, that edge rusher spot opposite of Nick Bosa.
Matt Mayoko joining us from Cleveland, getting you ready for the 49ers and the Browns. What do we know with as limited as their offense could be with the injuries along their offensive line? No Nick Chubb, PJ Walker. I mean, I've seen him a little bit. I know Steve Wilkes knows him because he was in Carolina. But what do we know about what their game plan may be with him under center?
I mean, their game plan has to be try to run the ball, and that's not going to be real easy. It's got to, kind of burn the clock a little bit, try to play ball control as much as they can. The problem is if they become too predictable with that, then you're looking at, a lot of 3rd and 8s, and then P.J. Walker has to sit back there and make a play down the field. So, they're going to probably, on the early downs, whenever they throw, either use play action and, depending on the weather, maybe try to get the ball down the field a little bit, or just hit the high percentage passes, play it safe. Don't put him, P.J. Walker, in a position where he can make mistakes. He doesn't have a whole lot of game experience. What is he, 28 years old, but hasn't played a whole lot. And so the key for them would just be limit the risk of turnovers, because I think his numbers are like 5 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. That's one thing that the Browns simply can't do. They cannot turn the ball over in this game and have any hope at all of winning.
Matt, Crazy Train Mayoko with us from Cleveland as we get ready.
Cleveland does rock.
Yeah, Cleveland does rock. Thank you, dude. Nice. Eerie. Gets funnier every time now. See, it came back around, dude. See what happened, Matt? See, we're working a bit here, dude. I'm with you. I got you, dude.
Yeah.
I just wish I could get some support on Matt and P.J. Walker, but we'll come back to that. Now Tim is upset, dude.
0 for 5.
0 for 5. It's all right, dude. Hey. Keep shooting, dude. I shot my way into this. I'll shoot my way out. Matt, I'm in the mindset that this is sort of like the Dallas game last week. Like the Cleveland defense is fantastic. I know they're good. The D-line is great. It's one of the best in football. They've done a good job to this point. They gave up 27 to Baltimore 2 weeks ago before their bye week. What I look at with them, though, is I go, they have not played, nobody has really, until they play the Niners, an offense that's this good. And I don't know that they've been suppressed by a defense that's as good as the 49ers. I can't see a team getting into a knock them down, drag them out type of game with the 49ers where points are at a premium and they're the team that comes out on top. I know there's a lot of variables in this one, which is what makes it sort of, it could be gettable. But I look at this game, I'm like, there's just not enough at all for Cleveland to get going. And even with the wind, it's not like the Niners are throwing it deep 10, 12 times a game,
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, if the Browns are going to have any chance, they're going to have to force the 49ers into some situations where they haven't been forced into. Brock Purdy's going to have to turn the ball over. They're going to have to get some cheap possessions or some added possessions, I should say. I don't think that the Browns can march the length of the field and put together points. They're going to need short fields. I mean, a lot of things I think have to go the way of the Browns in order for them to go into the second half with any chance of winning this game.
And, this defense we don't talk about this defense that much, but this defense, I mean, they've played against some pretty good running backs, right? They had Najee Harris, Henry, Tennessee, and Nixon, right?
Nixon and Cincinnati.
So
right?
they've shut down.
No,
they're good defense. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Good defense.
Yeah, they're going to see. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how Kyle Shanahan. I mean, you got the weapons, but how do you? First of all, how they're going to try to defend the 49ers, which is tough to do, and then how Kyle Shanahan is going to scheme like against Dallas to feature another one of his big weapons. But they've got a good defense.
Yeah, they do. And I think that they have the ability to play the 49ers straight up. I don't think any team that goes in with, let's do something crazy, let's focus on this. I don't think any team that goes into a game against the 49ers can succeed in that. I think that the teams that have the best chance of succeeding are basically, let's play them straight up. Let's not do anything out of the ordinary, on occasion do some stuff, but mix it up. Don't have one thing that we're going to lean on, because if you go into any kind of game with the 49ers thinking, let's take this part of the game away from them and leave themselves vulnerable in other spots, the 49ers are going to pick you apart. Brock Purdy's going to pick you apart if you're constantly rolling coverage to one side, or if you're stacking the box to take away Christian McCaffrey, whatever the case is. The 49ers have too much versatility on offense. They have too good of a plan. They have too good of a play caller. They have too good of players at quarterback, running back, tight end, and wide receiver for any team to think that they can just take one thing away and that's going to lead to a victory. So I think the Browns are set up very well, or as well as any team probably in the league, to at least make the 49ers work for it offensively because they do have a very good defensive line, and their secondary is probably the best in the league. I mean, they have 3 corners that are very good. They have safeties that are good. Like they're a solid defense. But they just have to play their game. The Browns do. They don't need to do anything different. They just need to play good, solid football and not give the 49ers any freebies. And that would be, their game plan defensively. And, of course, they got to be opportunistic, too. Whenever the ball is out there, whenever Brock Purdy gives them a chance, like I said, that's a good defensive backfield. If and when Brock Purdy gives them a chance, they have to take advantage of it and see if they can end that Brock Purdy interceptionless streak that he has going on since week 17 of last season.
Matt Mayoko joining us from Cleveland, getting you ready for the 49ers and the Browns. As far as the injuries, and somebody, I don't know if it was you, I can't remember who asked the question, if they're doing anything differently, but injuries always happen, and we're in week 5, but I was looking back. Week 6 last year was the Atlanta game where they had all those injuries and they lost 28-14. And then this year I looked at their IR, and it's got Cam Latu, Sam Womack, Danny Gray, Darrell Luter Jr., Robert Beal Jr. They've gotten extremely lucky to this point with injuries, and obviously that contributes to winning. Today, what do we got? Dre Greenlaw, Banks, where are those guys at?
Yeah, Banks will play. He wasn't even on the injury report, so he wasn't even listed as questionable. So he's good to go. I don't think Dre Greenlaw is going to play. I would be very surprised if Dre Greenlaw plays in this game. So then you're looking at Oren Burks, who has done a very good job as that 30% linebacker, the guy who comes off the field in nickel situations. I think you're looking at him playing every snap. Also Curtis Robinson, they brought him up from the practice squad. So I think that's probably what you're looking at. So those will be the 3 guys in base. It will be Warner, Burks, and Robinson. And then the only one I don't know is Elijah Mitchell. He had a full practice on Friday. He was listed as questionable. I kind of think he's not going to play, but I don't know that for sure. And then, here's the question, too. If Elijah Mitchell is up for this game, who's the backup?
It's a great question.
Jordan Mason does a really good job. And so, it's certainly not like Elijah Mitchell is expendable. I'm certainly not saying that. But I do think that, that the 49ers really have a good amount of depth there, and I think Jordan Mason is very capable of being the backup, and he adds special teams value as well. I mean, I would assume as soon as Mitchell is healthy, he's the number 2 guy, but they're in a really good spot, and heck, they even think highly of Ty Davis-Price, who's the number 4 guy. And so it'll either be Ty Davis-Price or Elijah Mitchell down for today's game. They keep the 3 running backs active, and so that's kind of where my eyes will go when the official report comes out, the official inactives come out. That's the one that I don't know whether it's going to be Mitchell or Ty Davis-Price.
Eerie.
It is very eerie. It is very eerie.
Thank you.
Let's say, snow flurries just started here.
Oh, wonderful.
At the stadium. But downtown, it's sunny and 75 degrees.
Wow, that is crazy.
Oh, and by the way, downtown is like a quarter mile from here. So, but people, I'm not joking. Locals said, "Oh yeah, the weather at the stadium. Don't pay attention to the weather app or anything because it doesn't apply at the stadium.
Wow.
That's only for Cleveland, and the stadium is in Cleveland." Just want to
microclimates.
Want to reinforce that. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you as always.
There we
Appreciate
go.
it. Thank you.
There we go, Madam Walker.
Yeah, Doppler radar.
Yeah. Nicely done, Matt. Nice. Yeah, I thought it was funny.
You got one.
Marcus,
1 for 6.
you and Marcus Thompson, dude. You're the only ones I got a laugh out of. All right, dude.
My walk off.
That was
Thanks,
it was a pity laugh for me. Thanks, Matt.
Very nice.
Does a great job. NBC Sports Bay Area. Was he serious about the weather there? A couple of flurries.
Sounds like it.
So yeah, the weather in the stadium is much different because it's right there on the lake than it is.
Yeah, we're used to that.
In the rest of Cleveland. Yeah, I was saying it's kind of Candlestick Lake. You know what I mean? You get over there, it'd be like 30 degrees colder, right, Dennis? And when you were driving into the game?
Yeah, and and then if it was high tide, the field was wet.
Exactly.
For some
That
reason.
was wild.
You would go out there and be like, why is this field wet? It's not raining.
It's wild.
But between the hashes, high tide, it was always wet.
Big thing you said there, no Dre Greenlaw.
That's huge,
And,
man.
the thing is, though, and this is a top-heavy team with the guys that are paid a lot, but I would say at the linebacker position, I'm not saying they could lose a Fred Warner, and it's not great to lose Dre Greenlaw, especially in a game that could be a defensive battle. But Oren Burks has played really well, and Curtis Robinson gives them depth, and they got a couple of rookies who are not going to be up. But remember, in the preseason, Graham played very well. D. Winters played really well. They've got depth at the linebacker position, so I expect Oren Burks to step up and play well. He's a good tackler. He's fast. He's active. He's really good against the pass. He's been really good, and he talked about that weak side linebacker that doesn't play very much, so he's going to have to be in a prominent role, but I think he can handle it. I think that he's a guy, and that's one position that they do have some depth.
That's sort of funny. That's a position where I look at and I go, if you were going to lose, somebody said to me, if you lost Fred Warner, that could be it. Of the guys who you could lose on this team and feel like you could still compete, I sort of thought you could lose Fred Warner or Greenlaw. Not that you want to, of course, but because of how high of a level both of those guys play. We remember when Willis would go down, you had Bowman. And Bowman would go down. It was at one point you had Borland there for a year. I mean, the depth at linebacker right now, one, it's not the position that it used to be. And so the guys playing at a high level, I think they far and away take the cake. It's a top-heavy position.
I just think you have to be able to tackle well.
You got to swarm here.
You got to have speed.
You got to cover. You got to cover tight ends down the line of scrimmage.
You got to do. But
you got to wrap up Jerome Ford today, too.
No. What they're going to do is P.J. Walker is not going to be sitting back in the pocket for a long time. Everybody around the league is getting rid of the ball quickly. So it's getting, it's the crossing routes, it's dump offs, it's being in the flat, those kind of things, and you got to make those tackles. That's what the game has become for linebackers.
She's the first self-made millionaire. I'm just saying. C.J. Walker did.
And she was African American.
Yeah, black woman. Yeah, from New York.
Serious.
Like late 1800s, you know what I mean?
It's not a laughing matter, though.
That's what I said, dude. I'm not laughing.
You have to explain the joke. The joke does not
I'm
work.
just saying, dude, I'm not. It wasn't, well, dude, nothing funny about a self-made millionaire. You know what I mean?
She was the first black.
She was the first, dude. Yeah. I said in the bullpen to Tim and Derek on Friday, and nobody laughed. I was like, I got to get me some black friends, man. I got to get me some more black friends. And I thought I thought Dennis would help me out. Now he's got my back. Now that his
I was still trying to figure out the joke.
He doesn't feel like cool in front of his friends anymore, so he can laugh at my jokes. All right, Dennis Brown, Super Bowl champion, John Lund, Adam Copeland with you. We look like we get like Cleveland weather outside here in downtown San Francisco. Mayogo telling us they got a few snow flurries inside the stadium.
We hit some fog
in
today,
Cleveland.
Man.
It is it's going to be a weird one weather-wise for the Niners and the Browns. We'll get you a few notes on this one. Niners have not really played from behind much at all this year. We'll tell you about that, and we'll get you the game plan for what would it take for Cleveland to come on. And, to come on strong in this one and upset the 49ers, we'll tell you what it would take. But Niners have not been susceptible to beating themselves. We'll tell you about it next, only here on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, that's like one of those things where it's like you got too much time on your hands, so you got to start trying to make things up a little bit. But I honestly don't think that we've hit our peak. I think that we just continue to keep our head down and grind and staying humble. Like if you saw the way that we graded this tape this morning, you would see that like we're taking this really serious. It's not we just scrapped this past game just because we beat them by 32 points. Like we're trying to find ways to get better, and the little things that you do see out there.
As the voice of Fred Warner, who, by the way, is he's always the lead backer wearing the green dot for the 49ers. But as we just found out from Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider, who is out in Cleveland for this one, that Dre Greenlaw looks like he's going to miss this game. Kyle Shanahan was on with us on Friday and on Thursday, actually. And I'd asked Kyle what the status of Greenlaw was. He said pretty simply, I didn't think it was a great outlook on his injury. He said, he's not feeling great today, so we're hoping he's feeling better tomorrow. That's probably the case with anybody who's banged up, but not a great prognosis for the game. So it sounds like Dre Greenlaw is going to be out, according to Matt Mayoko. Elijah Mitchell, he said he's still kind of waiting to find the status there, but he did have a full practice on Friday. Let's get you the game plan against the Browns here, because it is a funky one, and we're talking weather still. Mayoko told us there was a little bit of a snow flurry, and he said if you're looking at the weather report online, the zip code and all that for Cleveland, he says he's been told it doesn't mean anything when you look online because there is a microclimate where the stadium is, which is different than what you're getting in terms of a forecast for the rest of the area. But we will get you the game plan here. Let's build the game plan, sponsored by Golden State Time for building the game plan, sponsored by Golden State. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit us today at goldenstatelumber.com and by River Islands. Come home to River Islands and Lathrop and discover the San Joaquin River lifestyle with its lakes, parks, and schools. It was for me.
It was for me.
Start your tour today at riverislands.com. Favorite part of the show every week. As far as the game plan goes, I'm more looking at ways that Cleveland can find cracks in the 49ers and win this game, right? Basically, you look at turnovers, right? You talk about all three phases of the game, Dennis, like where you got it. This is where I always look at special teams. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, too, with Arizona. I think I said the same thing with the Giants, is when you play a bad team like that or a team that's where points are a premium for that team, you can't give them extra opportunities to get those premium points. Difference is here with the 49ers, they do not give the ball away. They are the best in football in terms of turnover ratio, turnover percentage differential, actually, +7. It's tied for first with Tampa. They've got 9 takeaways, 8 picks, and 1 forced fumble recovery, 2 giveaways. The Bills have the most takeaways at 13. The other thing here for the Niners is they don't play from behind ever. Here's the stat of the week. Niners have run a total of 7 plays on offense while trailing this season. No other team has run fewer than 36 while trailing. Niners are the only team in the NFL to not trail at any point in the second half this year, Dennis.
And, that's the key, right? I mean, you play your game. No mistakes. You do what you do. You go out, you execute, you run the ball down the field, you set up your run game, and you keep the defense. I mean, we talked about the defense. Keep the defense on their toes, on their heels. I mean, run and pass, and you put points on the board. And on defensive side, you do what you do. You play physical, and you take them out the football game. You take the crowd out the football game. But it's going to be about the mistakes and just execute and do what you've been doing. If you can put 30 points up against this team, by halftime or third quarter, it'd be like Dallas. Game would be over in the third quarter. So you do what you do, and you focus what you have to do, and you set the tone early, and you don't have mistakes. You don't let this team – you don't play down to this football team, and the 49ers have done this before. I mean, they've played down the team. So you play your football game, you be very physical, you execute, you protect the ball, you put points on the board, and it's going to be like Dallas. Third quarter game, you'll be playing your backup. So that's got to be the game plan.
Yeah, there's no doubt. This one scares me a little bit. Like you said, you mentioned this to start the show. They haven't left California in a long time. You just got up for Dallas. You smoked them 42-10. Everybody telling you how great you are every single week. I think this team is probably immune to that, like your teams were, Dennis. But it is kind of human nature. They've got a bunch of injuries. You kind of let down a little bit. But on one side of the ball, Cleveland's very, very good. They only give up 196 total yards per game, which is number 1 in the league. They give up 16.6 points per game. The 49ers give up 13.6, which is number 1. But Myles Garrett's going to play today, and I think there's a group of maybe 4 edge rushers. Bosa's in that group. TJ Watt is in that group. Micah Parsons is in that group. He's better than Micah Parsons.
Yep.
He's bigger. He's
stronger.
He's
a different type of rusher, too.
Yeah, he's going to be a handful. And he's going to see Trent Williams a lot. They will move him around, but they're really good defensively. They have downhill fast linebackers. They have really good corners. Grant Delpit is a very aggressive safety. They can make plays happen. Brock Purdy hasn't thrown an interception yet. These guys can change that. They're going to get pressure on him. I'm sure Kyle has a big-time game plan. And the other thing I think Kyle has used this week, it really hasn't been discussed. In this week 6 last year, they lost 28-14 to Atlanta. And I know we did the pregame last year. We weren't thinking Marcus Mariota in Atlanta, even with all their injuries, was going to beat the 49ers. There was just no way, and they did. This was at the point last year where they lost this game. Then the next week they got beat by Kansas City. Then they never lost again all last season. So if they can get through this little group, all of a sudden they play better, the 49ers, as the season goes on, generally speaking. So, this is one where I think Kyle looks at it after beating Dallas the way that they did, going on the road, early start. Everyone's telling you how great you are. Cleveland's got injuries, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, this is going to be easy. He has to guard against that this week, and I think he probably looked back a week or a year ago from Atlanta in week 6 and goes, hey, guys, you lost by 2 touchdowns at Atlanta last year. We've got to have the same focus we have every single week. I think it's easy. It seems like it would be. This seems like it would be a blowout. But remember, Cleveland is really good defensively.
I think a lot of those guys are sitting there, and at least 9 of them are like, 9 of our backups lost to Atlanta last year. We're healthy right now. This team is hungry, too. Tim Ryan said the same to me on Friday. He was like, hey, this team, like, you go into the weight room at any point throughout the week now. He says guys are putting in work differently than they have because they don't want to break down. They know what it takes to get to that point. And the reason it's so hard to be sustainable in football is you're playing long seasons in any sport. We talk about like the miles and the legs of the Warriors catches up to you. Doing it year after year after year in football, taking that beating deep into February every year, into January. It's tough to do that year after year. Anyway, Niners and the Browns coming your way in about 2 hours. 2 hours to kick here, 10 a.m. right here on The Sports Leader. Tim Ryan and Greg Papa will be on the call, and we will go out to the broadcast booth in just a bit. But Kyle Shanahan, what did he have to say about the health of his roster and how they're going up against Cleveland today? He met with, he came on with me and Tom on Thursday, as he does every week throughout the season, and we'll play that interview for you next. Kyle Shanahan getting you ready for the Niners and the Browns, week 6, only here on The Sports Leader. Copeland Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, John Lenn with you ahead of week 6 of the NFL season. I say ahead, except that we've got a game already underway from Tottenham Stadium in London right now. They're at halftime. It's the Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans. Ravens are, 15-3? Is that the score right now? 18-3? I can't remember what the halftime score is or if they kick one more field goal. Anyway, we'll get you that score right after we get you this interview. Niners are out in Cleveland looking to extend their start to 6-0. Cleveland is going to be without Deshaun Watson, who is out with a shoulder injury coming off a bye, and they're out. They're missing Nick Chubb for the remainder of the season after he had a severe knee injury a couple of weeks back. It'll be Jerome Ford out of the backfield. Anyway, head coach of the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, joins myself and Tom Tolbert every week on Thursdays throughout the season. And we open up the interview this week where Tom asked Coach if he thought about the victory against Dallas and if he thought it was the most complete win the Niners have had in his tenure here.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I'm just thinking with your question, I can't think of any others sticking out like that. Just offense, defense, and special teams, both two good teams going into it. And just how quick it was over. So I didn't know after the first half. I thought we had an opportunity to do it right away, and I thought we missed a couple. And went into halftime, I was a little frustrated, but the way we came out in the third quarter, we got it all done. Everything we missed in the first half, we did, and seemed pretty comfortable by early in the fourth.
Yeah, the only one I could think of, and it wasn't a regular season game, was the Green Bay NFC Championship game. And because it was a playoff game, and I thought that game, you guys were equally as dominant. It was a different type of dominance, but man, when you could run the ball and shut the run down, I thought that was about the only game. But this one was just so comprehensive. The defense was on point, the offense was clicking, and it was interesting because you said that at halftime, that you were a little frustrated, and you look at the scoreboard and you might think, well, why? But I think if you watch the game, you would understand. Like it almost felt like a 35 point half was there to be had.
No, it did, and it's such a fine line in this league. But it was 21-7, and I thought it should have been 35-7. And when you rarely in this league do you just stay hot like that, and the other team doesn't. So when it's 21-7, and they're starting the ball with they get the ball in the third quarter, you're like, man, if this could be 21-14, and I feel like this should be 35-7. So you don't know if you missed your opportunity. So it was cool to come in. The players all felt the same way at halftime, and they came out, and the defense stopped. They went down and got a field goal, which made it 21-10. So there was a little life there. But once we went down and answered and made it 28-10, it was smooth sailing after that.
Talking to 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan. We do it every week here on the UMA guest line. I'm wondering, the second touchdown pass from Brock to Kittle up the sideline, like the flea flicker play there. We were sitting around, we talked to Greg Cosella, NFL Films, every week, and we were comparing it to the one that the Lions threw earlier in the day. And I ever wonder, when you drop a play and you see another team do something similar, do you go, what the hell is that, man? What's this guy? They run that play that I ran? That's kind of cool to see them side by side.
I saw them run it like 4 years ago. Anthony Lynn was there when they ran it. He suggested it to us last year. We carried it last year. We were saving it for the right time. We ended up not using it till the playoffs when we didn't have a quarterback in there. Christian ended up getting it, and it was a terrible look. It was Tampa too, so no one was open on it. But it's a trick play I've seen a number of teams use. You can't bring it out very much, but that was the first time we brought it out, and it was the right time.
It's funny, Kyle, because I talked to Steve Kerr quite a bit, and I learned from Steve that coaches are thieves. I mean, they just like they'll watch other games, watch other cut-ups, and go, "Oh, that's a nice play. I like that play. I'm going to go ahead and throw that in my arsenal as well."
That's what's funny to me about everyone acting like there's playbooks and secrets and stuff. And everything's recorded and on film, and we got really slow remotes and all these different angles, and you can study everything over and over again. And if you're not studying everyone else in the off season during the week, what are you doing? I mean, besides just coaching your own guys. I mean, that's where you come up stuff. That's where you can balance things out. That's where you get to see other people try things, and you don't always have to do it exactly that way. But, we spend the whole offseason going against a 4-down front and cover 3 and a little bit of quarters. And, we like to see some other plays tried versus other coverages. And it's nice to be able to just turn on a tape, especially the way they got it now compared to how they had it 15 years ago, to where you can see anything you want at any time.
It's funny because I'll ask you the same question, because I asked Steve this. I don't know if it was on the air or off the air, but I was like, because I saw a play that he ran, and I think it might have been against Atlanta. And I asked him, I go, did you take that play from Atlanta and then run it against Atlanta? He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, yeah, we love to do that kind of stuff. We like go find a play, run it against him, and then look down at him and go, gotcha. I'm wondering if do you get plays like from a team and go, yeah, let's run it against that team?
Yes, that's funny you say that because we have kind of the same personality with that stuff. You know, if we steal a good play from somebody, there's no one we'd love to make it work on more than the person who did it, because they recognize it extremely fast. I remember we ran a play that we had done and we missed a block on it, and then the next series I watched the other team run the exact same play we did and they executed it, and I just sat there and lost my mind yelling at our coaches. I'm like, they just ran our play but they coached it better, and just freaking out.
What's the most you've called a play, like the same play in a game, if you can remember?
When I call the same play?
Like, because I think you said you called the same. Just circling back earlier in this
when I watched someone else do it?
Just like, what's the most you've ever called the same play in one game? You said 4 times for one of them last week.
I don't know, probably like 7.
That's a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I called the same play 3 times in a row last year.
It's like playing Madden. Yeah, like this works.
I mean, yeah, and it's also you call a play and you don't get the right coverage, but you go to someone else and you still get a good gain. I'm going to call that same play again because eventually the coverage is going to change, and it's going to go back to actually what I meant it for, where you hit number 1 will be a bigger gain. And so you do some stuff like that, or you feel you got the guys on their heels and they don't know what just happened to them, and I don't want to give them time to come to the sidelines and talk about it and look at the pictures and talk to their coaches. So you just come right back at it and you just try to keep attacking them until they adjust, and once they get to the sideline, they usually adjust.
So one of the things, Coach, I find really fascinating is how you guys kind of run the same stuff and maybe even the same exact play, but make it look different. The play will look different, but it ends up being the same play. Like how many play? Let's take one play, for instance. How many different plays can you make that look like being the same play, whether it's by motion, by formation, or whatever you use? Can you make one play that's the same play look like 4 or 5 different plays?
Yes, I mean, pre-snap and tight splits to wide splits. I mean, you can go full width and run all these plays, which those are how I learned most of these plays a long time ago, full width. And then how do you coach them with all tight splits and to kind of disperse everybody to those areas? How do you do it with motions? How do you do it with some of these quick motions behind the quarterback motions, double motions, do it out of empty, do it with guys in the backfield, but you scat the back so it looks like empty. And there's an infinite amount of ways to move 5 guys around at different spots and with formations. And now it could be the same play where your X receiver is number 1 in the progression, and then you can run the exact same play and your fullback can be the number 1 guy in the progression. So that's what allows you to do so many different things, but not put too much pressure on the guys, as long as you can find the verbiage to get them all in the right spots. But so it looks like they're doing just hundreds of different things, but it's a play that they all learned in the offseason, the quarterback knows, and when it's all said and done, those guys are all in the same spots.
Talking to 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan here on the UMA guest line. Niners and the Browns, Sunday morning, our time here, 10 a.m. kickoff right here on The Sports Leader. First time you're going back to Cleveland since you left as the offensive coordinator there in 2015. What do you remember about your time there, the one season you spent there, Kyle?
I mean, it wasn't very long.
Yeah.
And I actually really enjoyed Cleveland. It's I've been back for a preseason game, but this will be my first regular season game back there. And, you know, I mean, we were there about 11 months, so not very long. But I did really enjoy the people out there. You know, they were like true football fans. I mean, we started out 7-3, and so they treated us so great. Like the whole town was, you kind of walk into a bar without everybody celebrating and stuff. We didn't end that way. I think we finished 7-9, so it didn't end great. But it was a really cool football town, and a little colder than I like. But I don't have anything bad to say about Cleveland.
So we talked to you about the analytics stuff a couple of weeks ago, which we thought you'd give a great answer on, where you said it's not cut and dry like that. You're not sitting at a blackjack table with a deck of cards. I saw somebody put out a note here giving credit to each head coach in the NFL by chart, how often teams go for it on 4th down, when they should. And you've been the most successful when you should do it, Kyle, at a clip of 100% of the time. They say every time the analytics say you should go for it on 4th down, you have, and you've converted.
Well, I guess that means for 5 weeks in a row, my gut is lined up with analytics, but I don't think that's going to last. So I should enjoy that.
What's the difficulties in facing a Jim Schwartz defense?
I mean, Jim's as good as it gets. He's been one of the best that I've gone against over my career. He's everywhere he's been. I started out my career in Houston as a coordinator, going against him when he was in Tennessee, and then when I was in Washington, going against him in Detroit, and Atlanta, and here, gone against him when he was in Philly. Jim always has a very sound, aggressive defense. It's always one of the top defenses in the league. But anytime Jim has talent, he's usually one of the top 1, 2, or 3 in the league, and that's what he has this year. He's got the pass rushers, got some good linebackers, some really good corners and safeties, and that's why they are number 1 in almost every single category right now. We got a huge challenge for us, and we did last week versus Dallas and came up big for that, and it's only getting harder this week.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about a throw I was talking about earlier this week, the one that Brock made to Ayuk over the middle that just dropped it over. I think it was Van Der Esch possibly, but it was linebacker in either way. And then in front of the safety. I mean, that throw looked really difficult. I don't know if it is or not, but it looked impressive. Tell me about the route and the throw, because that was really nice, I thought.
Well, that was the one I kept coming back to because there was a hole for it.
Got it.
There was a hole for it, and then by the fourth time we had come back to it, he got so much depth, and which kind of made the hole tough to see. And he just lobbed it right over him, and it was so cool where I was standing because I had the exact window, and I saw the backer, and I couldn't see Brock in front of him, and all I saw was this nice touch ball floating right over the linebacker, and it just was about an inch above his fingers, and then right into BA's hands, and it was such a good touch pass, and that's why BA he ran an awesome route and then had some good yak after it.
As they say, Kyle, if the first 3 times it doesn't succeed, try again.
That's right. When you worry, you're supposed to come back to it later. That's usually what you do. What the problem is when you do it on 1st and 10 and then you get a penalty and it's 1st and 15, usually you come back to it right away and it doesn't work because you get a different coverage. But we were lucky in that situation. We usually wait a little bit longer, but we wanted it too bad in this game, so we did it right away.
There you go. There's Tom Tolbert, Adam Copeland. They talk to Kyle Shanahan weekly, and you got to hear it every single week. And, of course, John Lynch is on the morning show, so that's how they brain trust of the 49ers works. Thanks for joining us, John Lund, Adam Copeland, and Dennis Brown, as we get you ready for the 49ers and the Browns. Time for the player to bank on. That's sponsored by our good friends at Casino Matrix. Just drop in for gaming, dining, sports. Please gamble responsibly. We know that you do. 1-800-GAMBLER and by 5 Star Bank. Learn more at 5starbank.com. A lot of guys to choose from. A lot of guys to choose from last week. So who do you got for a player to bank on today?
I look at this kid, and we talk about all the time. Brock Purdy, you can just bank on him. I mean, you can trust this guy. He feels comfortable in the pocket. He protects the ball, hasn't thrown a pick. And somehow he's put up 30 points every single football game.
That's going to be a challenge today for sure, yeah.
So he's got to be the player to bank on because he's done it. He's proved that he can do it, and he hasn't. When was the last time he lost a game? I think it was the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
And he didn't finish that football game.
Exactly
so any game he's in and he finishes it, it's going to be 30 points. It's going to be a W. So you got to bank on a player like that.
And he's starting to get the national acclaim, and I don't know why it bothers me that he doesn't, but he's getting the national acclaim. They're talking about him on all the national talk shows, and MVP odds are improving and everything like that. The one thing that is so impressive to me, and I'm sure Joe was like this, you're around guys like this, just nothing seems to bother him. He just, people call him a robot or whatever the case, but he just seems, and I got to imagine that that's great from a leadership position like that. As you look over your quarterback, if he's not panicking and freaking out, then it kind of permeates throughout the entire team, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's part of the leadership, right? I mean, he doesn't get flustered. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. He goes out and he does what he has to do. And it just amazes me. I've been to a couple practices, and he's becoming a vocal guy. But you watch him in football games, he just goes through it, and he does it in a way that looks like he's played longer than he's been in the NFL. I mean, he looks like a seasoned vet. The way, I don't know if it's the system, I don't know, what happens, but you watch this kid play, and I know he's very grounded, he's very into his religion, but whatever it is, he plays like he's been on an NFL team for 10 years. And that's the vibe you get from him.
Absolutely. Brock Purdy, player to bank on. And it's going to be big today. This is going to be his biggest challenge. And I know we talked about that with Dallas last week, but this Cleveland defense is no joke. Under 200 yards per game, getting up about 16 points a game. They are very good. They're banged up offensively, but Brock Purdy in the offense, as Dennis said, 30, 30, 30, 35, and then last week 42. So it's going to be their biggest challenge of the year. to get those numbers against Cleveland. Cleveland's going to struggle offensively, but defensively, very, very good. We'll hear from Brock coming up next, and we'll take a look at not only the 49ers, but the rest of the NFL and how it shakes out for the 49ers. And then bottom of the hour, we'll go behind enemy lines. Mary Kay Cabot with all those injuries with the Browns. She'll talk to us about what's going on in Cleveland. All that coming up next as we get you ready for 49ers and Browns on the road, only here on the Sports Leader.
I feel like we still have left stuff out there, where we can be our best and still reach our full potential. I don't know if we'll ever be able to reach that just because that's like a perfect game. And I don't know if you can play an exactly, perfect game in the NFL, but that's like the standard, man. And that allows us to play really good. So that's what we're always telling ourselves. And for being real, yes, there's so many more mistakes and things that we can clean up and be better at. So for us, that's like a thing that we're excited about. Like we have, every single week to go out and prove to be our best versions of ourselves.
The Brock of Gibraltar, John. Brock Purdy there. 9 touchdowns, no interceptions on the season for Brock as he is rocketing up the MVP odds list in Vegas. Adam Copeland, John Lund, Super Bowl champ Dennis Brown with you. We got the Niners and the Browns coming your way. 10 a.m. kickoff at 9 o'clock. We were going to hand it over to Tim Ryan and Greg Papa, who will take you through the game, and we'll be back with you afterwards, taking your calls and get reaction from this one. 808 KNBR will be the number to call, and you can check in here on the text line as well, or on the YouTube chat, on the Twitch stream, KNBR.com. It is all there if you want to join in on the broadcast. Whipping around the NFL just a little bit here, guys, before we get to a little injury report on the Browns. Mary Kay Cabot was with you guys earlier this week. We'll get to that in just a sec. We got one game, third straight week. We got a London game going on right now. It's 18-3 right now, as expected for the Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans. Titans offense is it's inept, man. They just ran a direct snap here with Derrick Henry, and that's about as creative as they're going to get. And by the way, of course, I say that he breaks a 70-yard run here. Fantastic stuff there for the Tennessee Titans offense. It's been terrible this year. Anyway, that's the only game underway. We had a Thursday night game. In terms of games this week, it's sort of a weird NFL slate. The game that intrigues me most on the docket today, I mentioned it to you earlier, Cincinnati and Seattle. Question marks for both of those teams, and both with playoff hopes and aspirations. Cincinnati, if they win this game, I was looking at betting odds, speaking of odds, of them winning the division, the AFC North this week. They're in last place right now. Pittsburgh's in first.
Weird division.
Would it shock anybody if at 2-3 and 3-2, all those teams were completely flipped by the time it ended? Baltimore could win this game and could probably still will win the division based on how they've started, but it wouldn't shock me. Cincinnati made a run.
No, I think anybody in this division can win. Cleveland's got to get healthy. They got to get Deshaun Watson back. But if they got healthy, Cincinnati, Burrow looks as healthy as he's been. He said this week, it's as healthy as he's been. He had that calf that started in the preseason. This is going to be a great game because Devin Witherspoon, the rookie, who had such a great game against the Giants on Monday night, is taking on Chase. And earlier this week, his best compliment to the Seattle corners, which, again, Tariq Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, they're pretty good. He said they're not horrible. So, I don't know if that's something that, they look at it and say, oh, it's a compliment. He said we're not horrible, but he's going to challenge the rookie. We're going to see how good that 5th overall pick for Seattle is. And Seattle's at home. It's a tough place to play. Geno Smith hasn't been as consistent as he was a year ago.
Off a bye. Yeah, his percentages last year, completion percentage, he was above 65 for the whole first part of the year.
And Smith and Jigba was supposed to be a kid of Ohio State that was really going to take that offense to the next level. He hasn't really stepped up. So we'll see because, like you said, getting Joe Burrow healthy is the most important thing for Cincinnati. And if he is healthy, then they're a contender in the AFC. If he's not, we've seen that they can lose to just about anybody.
Yeah, the AFC is still, it's going to be tough. I don't know who's going to separate themselves. The Bills, to me, week to week, people are going, it's the Bills, it's the Bills, it's the Bills. I'm still expecting Kansas City to round into form at some point. This kid, Rashee Rice, they have, he's kind of becoming their feature receiver now. Isaiah Pacheco, they've got a good offense. They're not doing the gimmicky stuff around the goal line, at least for the first 5 or 6 weeks that they had been doing, the snow globe stuff and spinning. They're running the football at the goal line. Travis Kelce had 9 catches on 9 targets for 140 or something this week. The Chiefs are the team that I expect to probably just round into form. They know where they need to be at what time of year they need to be there. They've got a coach who knows how to do it. I think without Eric Bieniemy this year, they're having a little bit of an adjustment period. They obviously looked pretty good last year, even without Tyreek Hill. But I think they're kind of finding their place. But the Bills, to me, until they show me that they can do it consistently, I know last week they just kicked the crap out of Miami. I think that says more about their division and about their matchups with each other. But
they got screwed last week. Jacksonville.
Should be Jacksonville. I said Miami. Yeah.
in London for 2 weeks because basically that's become.
It was horrible scheduling, but
so they play a game, then they stay the next week, and Buffalo.
But they flew on Friday.
Flies in on a Friday, and it's and you could tell. They just didn't have any energy at all. And Jacksonville was like, "Hey, this is where we live. Basically, this is a home game for us." And the Bills had to fly in on a Friday and try to adjust, and you could tell they were just asleep at the switch. So, look, I'm not giving an excuse to Buffalo, but, you look at the AFC and
Trevor Lawrence was like a flat there.
Yeah, it just wasn't good. they had no energy.
Come on for my bangers and mash, dude, with Trevor Lawrence. Anyway, the Jags are back stateside now, and it's the Titans and the Ravens. Titans are looking to kick a field goal here to make it 18-6. We will get you back out to Cleveland here in just a little bit. We'll talk to who do we have today? Is it Greg or is it Tim is joining us today?
I think it's Greg, right?
Is it Greg today?
Yeah.
It alternates each week. I always forget who we have. So we should be talking to Greg Papa in just a little bit. Still to come, your Steve Young Show, your 49er player spotlight. Also, when we come on back, Mary Kay Cabot gave you guys the injury report and what to look for in quarterback P.J. Walker, who's going to start today for the Cleveland Browns. We will get that to you next, only here on the Sports Leader.
I think he's very capable of running that offense. He makes good decisions. He's good with the ball. He can win with his legs. A lot of what Deshaun can do. So when people say, are they going to dummy down the offense, I don't think so. I think he's more than capable of running that offense.
That's 49ers defensive coordinator Steve Wilks. Thanks for joining us, getting you ready for the Browns and the 49ers. Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown is here, as well as Adam Copeland, John Lund. Steve Wilks, of course, had P.J. Walker in Carolina last year, played in the USFL, was with the Bears during the early parts of camp, and then traded to the Browns after Josh Dobbs, who the 49ers have seen. The Arizona quarterback was in Cleveland. They traded him. They picked up P.J. Walker, and he's going to start today against the 49ers. So let's take a peek behind enemy lines. Earlier this week, Greg and I talked to Mary Kay Cabot from Cleveland.com. She gave us a little update on all the injuries with the Browns, but we started off with what to expect from P.J. Walker.
Well, he has started 7 games for the Panthers over the previous 3 seasons. He's gone 4-3 in those starts. One of those victories was last year. It was a 21-3 victory over the Tampa Bay Bucks when Tom Brady was playing in that game. So that's a pretty good feather in his cap there to have beaten Tom Brady in a game. But it'll be a tall order for PJ to have to go out and try to function against this very aggressive, stout, physical San Francisco 49ers defense. There are other issues going on with the Cleveland Browns right now, including the fact that their all-pro left guard has not practiced all week with a knee injury. Their
Bitonio,
tight end,
Joel Bitonio, yeah.
Joel Bitonio.
Yeah.
And then their starting tight end, David Njoku, hasn't practiced all week with burns that he suffered in a household fire pit accident the Friday night before the Ravens game. Now, he did play in that game, but he's been receiving treatment and whatnot on his burns, and we'll just have to see if he's ready to go. He would have to wear a mask again. Wow. It's a matter of whether or not he can wear the helmet with comfort.
And Njoku posted video or pictures on IG. It is bad. Have you asked him? Has he wanted to divulge the nature of the burns on his hands and his face and the fire pit? And it happened the Friday night before your last game against Baltimore. How did that happen? Because he got burned pretty badly, Mary Kay.
Yeah, he really did. But no, we have not had an opportunity to talk to him yet. He has walked through the locker room just briefly each of the last 2 days. So we have seen him in there, but he hasn't been approachable. He hasn't been made available to talk. He was not available after the Ravens game to speak, and he's just not ready to go there yet. Maybe if he plays in this game, he'll talk after the game. Not really sure. But so far, he really has not addressed it.
Mary Kay, let's look at some of the matchups, especially offensively. Other than that, you've got a piece up there that's pinned of DeJuan Jones, just a massive right tackle that took over for Jack Conklin. He's an Ohio State guy. Nick Bosa, Ohio State guy. It was supposed to be one of their strengths, their offensive line, and certainly in the interior it is. But they've had some injuries. In Jedrick Will's case, maybe a little fall off in play. Where is the offensive line at this point for the Browns?
Well, as you mentioned, their interior is supposed to be their strength right now, but Joel Bitonio, again, hasn't practiced all week, and I do think he's in jeopardy of missing this game. Oh. He has played in 102 straight games. I know he'll do everything he can to be out there, and we have had other offensive linemen here who haven't practiced during the week and then played on Sunday, but Joel hasn't been around. We haven't seen him. We saw him walk out on crutches last Wednesday heading into the bye week. That was not a good sign whatsoever, and we haven't even seen him outside, so we'll have to see how that goes. As you mentioned, DeJuan is a man mountain. I mean, he is just enormous. He's the biggest guy on the team. He would be going up against fellow Buckeye Nick Bosa at times, and that would be a very, very interesting matchup. DeJuan would have to be on his technique. He would really, really have to be on point in that way. He's done a really nice job in pass blocking, has struggled a little bit in run blocking, and, of course, as you guys know, the San Francisco 49ers are really, really good in run defense. So we'll have to see how that goes. Again, the Browns at center, Ethan Posick, he's been limited all week with a leg injury of his own, and so they're banged up on the offensive line. There are definitely some issues for the Browns on the offensive line, and it's not a great time to be having those.
Yeah, DeJuan Jones is 6'8", 374 pounds listed. So that is, he's a man mountain, as you said. So obviously not having Deshaun Watson, And then going back to that Monday night game against Pittsburgh and the gruesome injury with Nick Chubb. I mean, arguably your two best player. Amari Cooper's a good player on offense as well in Batonia, but the quarterback in the back. So not having Chubb, and I guess he's got to go back in to prepare the ACL. It's a terrible injury, Mary Kay. But we know Kareem Hunt and his skill set, but he was gone all offseason. They just brought him back the Wednesday after the Chubb injury in Pittsburgh. So how do they roll with the running backs with Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt, and Pierre Strong Jr.?
Well, they will be, running back by committee from now on, unless they decide to go out and trade for some kind of a running back. But as of right now, they do have Jerome Ford. He's been limited in practice this week with a knee injury as well. Kareem Hunt is coming back around after being out of football and not being with the team until September. And then they do have Pierre Strong that they can run a little bit more. They've tried to do a little bit of, the wide back thing with Elijah Moore, but I think he's kind of too small for that role. He's not Deebo Samuel size, and it really hasn't worked out very well. He lost 20 yards on his lone run last week, and this would be a really, really tough front to run against. So I don't know if they'll do very much of that with him. But certainly they haven't been the team they thought that they would be on the ground without Nick Chubb and with some issues in run blocking. So, if you think about it, they could be without Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, their all-pro right tackle, Jack Conklin, who's out for the season in this game, their starting tight end, David Njoku. It could just be a game where they're kind of banged up.
And their best left guard as well.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett's all right, though? Is he out of the walking boot? Is he good to go?
Yeah, he's out of the walking boot. He's limited as well with the foot injury, but he'll be okay. And I think that's one of the best matchups to watch on Sunday will be him against Trent Williams. He really hasn't faced the likes of a Trent Williams so far this season, and Myles can wreck a game if you let him. So, it's going to be incumbent upon Trent and those guys to try to slow down Myles. And he moves around. He'll go wherever he can find the most favorable matchup and get to the quarterback. So Brock's going to have to get rid of the ball very quickly.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about, because I've seen his numbers in the past where sometimes he's in seasons he's been kind of 50-50 on the left and the right. How often do they move him around, and is he usually going to be Trent Williams, or because Trent is so good, will they move him around or even bring him right through the middle?
He'll play everywhere, and especially under Jim Schwartz, who is the new defensive coordinator this year. They will move him around. And so, yeah, you can find him over center, guard, tackle, it doesn't matter. Wherever they think they can free him up, that's where he'll be. So it's catch him if you can.
That is Mary Kay Cabot. We had her on earlier with Papa Lund, and she gives you a little insight into the Browns. And again, offensively, tons of injuries, as she discussed. P.J. Walker's going to start at quarterback, and then she was just talking about Myles Garrett. He's good. Myles Garrett's good.
He's super good. Yeah, he was dealing with the foot this week, but he was a full practice participant, I believe, on Friday. So Jerome Ford was dealing with a knee injury as well. He's back out there. They have Kareem Hunt out of the backfield as well. He's their Pierre Strong is the third guy. But I think you'll see more of Hunt and Ford. Now they've had Hunt re-signed and a week to reinstall him back into the offense because he was a free agent until a couple of weeks ago. So
absolutely,
that's where we are. Adam Copeland, John Lund, Dennis Brown with you here. From the KNBR studios in San Francisco. We did go out to Matt Mayoko, got the weather report from him. He is in Cleveland. They said, don't look at the forecast online because it's not going to be the same for the stadium. It's sort of like Candlestick Park. It's got its own little microclimate. He said there was even some swirling winds and a little bit of snow swirl going on in there just a little bit ago. So keep track of that as we get you ready for the Niners and the Browns. The one big note we're waiting for confirmation on, Mayoko also told us Dre Greenlaw looking like he's going to be out today, potentially out with that hamstring injury. We will update you when we get that information, but still to come, your 49er Player Spotlight and the Steve Young Show. Adam Copeland, John Lund, Dennis Brown, Niners and the Browns, 10 a.m. right here on the Sports Leader. Adam Copeland back with your 49er player spotlight ahead of week 6 of the NFL season. Niners and the Cleveland Browns. We talked about it last week. Who was going to have the big game? Well, George Kittle. We talked pregame about it. I think Dennis said this could be a George Kittle game. Big physicality. And last week he had a career day. George Kittle put up 3 touchdown receptions. It was the best game of his career in terms of receiving touchdowns. Only 3 catches in the game. They were potent catches, though, as it helped the Niners to a 42-10 torching of the Dallas Cowboys. George Kittle talked about his unselfish play and the unselfish nature of the 49ers' weapons on offense.
Is it easy to sit there and, have like 1 or 2 targets? No. I think for anybody, the type of player you are. I like the ball in my hands. I love running in space. But we're playing at a really high level right now. Everybody's doing everything they can to contribute, whether it's in the run game, whether it's in the pass game. And at the end of the day, as a football player, as a tight end, I can only control what I can control. And so I'm going to go out there every single play, and if they want me to run a route that gets Debo open, I'm going to run the hell out of that route. If I need to, do gap scheme, and I'm going to see Trey a block down there, I'm going to move a 4 technique with Trent Williams, and we're going to hit the hell out of the Mike linebacker on the other side, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. So then when you turn on that tape, you're going to be like, holy cow, that guy's playing some crazy football right now. That's all I can focus on.
Yeah.
And, that's what my goal is, just to play to the best of my ability. And I just know that this team is very special. We have a lot of talent on it. And we're all going to have good games. We're all going to have games where, we might not be featured as much. And, hopefully that we figure out a algorithm or a way, to get everybody involved in every single game. And, I will get to that. I'm not worried about that at all. But this team's playing at a high level. Our defense is playing at a high level. And I don't think anyone really cares so much about individualistic stats. Obviously, guys want to go Pro Bowl, guys want to do all pro stuff, and you're thinking for your career. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is winning. And we're winning right now, and we're playing at a high level. I think everyone's very okay with the touches and the things that are going on.
You think unselfish in the 49ers, hard to find somebody else who embodies that more than George Kittle. After the 3-touchdown performance, 3 catches, 3 touchdowns, 67 yards. Heading out to Cleveland, they need him to block heavy today. He is this week's 49er player spotlight. Steve Young, the best half hour in radio, joins us every week on the Tolbert and Cope Show on Wednesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. This week, Steve talked about how the team can stay focused after an early 5-0 start. Big success early on. How do you keep each other accountable?
The coach cannot do it.
Coach goes into the locker room and says, hey, we got to stay focused. We haven't really accomplished anything yet. Doesn't matter. The only way it happens is leadership in the locker room. I always said this 1,000 times. The self-policing locker rooms that can hold people accountable, that can hold on to, look, there's going to be ebbs and flows and natural ebbs and flows in all parts of 50 people and just the human dynamic. But this team is built off of a locker room of accountability. The guys in the locker room who have the loudest voice, who have the biggest stick, are the ones that you trust the most. And that's what you pray for. You pray for, you know, some goofball with a loud voice and a big stick that you don't trust. And there's a lot of teams in the league that don't have that. They don't have that they don't have the guys to actually do that. So they have a big game. And who's going to hold them accountable? Coach is going to come in and make a speech. Like, no one cares. It doesn't matter. It's not going to hold the locker rooms that hold each other to a standard. And always say, what plays do you call? It doesn't matter. What defenses do you run? It doesn't matter. Everybody's accountable. That's where you're going to do it. Is this a team that can handle going to Cleveland? Everyone's marking the calendar for the 49ers. Can you be that team? I think this team can be.
mean, this game is, to me, the biggest challenge we've had so far. I mean, thought that was going to be Dallas too, going into it. But then you look at this and, the defensive numbers just jump out. You don't see very much that they're number 1 or 2 in everything. Red zone's the only thing they're not, but that's only because I think they've had 8 plays there all year. And Baltimore ran it in, so that didn't help their rankings there. But everything else is top notch. We're doing that too offensively right now, so it should be a hell of a battle. When you look at a defense like that, a team who's committed to running the ball like they are, I mean, that's like the prime best way to get into the playoffs, and that's why I expect this team to be there throughout this year.
All right, a few more minutes as we give you some final thoughts on the Browns and the 49ers from Cleveland. Again, Matt Mayoko checked in with us a little bit earlier, said that the stadium kind of has a microclimate, so you're looking for the weather. It's supposed to be windy. Rain is supposed to hold off until after 5 p.m., but then Matty was on with us just over an hour and a half ago and said that there was a little bit of moisture in the air, so we'll keep you up to date, obviously, on everything that's going on. But, guys, in our final couple of minutes, 2 defensive battles. 49ers are pretty healthy. Browns are not. Everything points towards the 49ers. That always makes me a little nervous. What do you think, Dennis?
You still got to play the football game. You got to go out. You got to set the tone, like we've talked about the entire show. This game, you can put this game away at halftime if you go and do what you're supposed to do as far as the 49ers go. Don't let them. Don't give them hope. Don't make mistakes. Protect the football. Put points on the board, and I think they'll shut down real quick.
Well, what Cleveland has to do is to do a whole lot of things right, correctly themselves. They can't beat themselves. They can't make mistakes. The 49ers have so much talent that they can make up for some of that, but there's a lot of variables here that the Niners haven't seen this year. And I think when there are variables in a game where you are a big-time favorite off of a big-time win and the other team is not expected to come out and win, and a lot, it's funny, everything points to the Niners, but everybody's going, I'm kind of wary about this game. The weather's a factor. Haven't left the state or the time zone like this before. People go, oh, no big deal. Still a factor. It's something else they haven't done really much this year. And there will be more of it, but they've played more home games than road. So a lot of factors here in this one, and you want to sort of mitigate or limit those variables. And now also Dre Greenlaw officially out for this one. So that's another one.
Greenlaw is out. What's interesting, David Njoku, who had heard all week long, may not play because of the fire accident that happened at his house. He is active today, as is Ethan Posick, who is their center. He's a former Seahawk. And that was an important one because along the offensive line, they're already missing their right tackle, DeJuan Jones, a rookie out of Ohio State, in for Jack Conklin. They had struggles at left tackle with Jedrick Wills. Joel Bitonio, their all-pro guard, he is out. So Posick was a guy that was questionable to play. He's going to play. And Njoku, their tight end, is going to play. So they need all the offensive help.
Extra protection there, yeah.
Absolutely. And then
Njoku's a big body.
And look, I think the 49ers are going to move to 6-0, but the cautionary tale that I'm sure Kyle told his team is Week 6 last year lost 28-14 to Atlanta. And I know they were missing a lot of defensive starters. But remember, we didn't think Marcus Mariota was going to do anything, just like we're looking at P.J. Walker thinking, well, what can he do? Well, all Mariota did last year was start 13 for 13, and he gave the 49ers struggle, and how they did it was they ran the football. Yep. So, look, they got to be locked in. They're going across country. It's a 10 a.m. start. Cleveland's absolutely packing a really good defense. So I think we've pointed it out the entire time, which is you got to play mistake-free football. They've been great at doing it this year, but you can't give them, as Dennis pointed out, any opportunities, because if this game is close going into the second half, Cleveland's going to go, well, hell, we can pull this thing out. And if our defense can make some plays, it's going to be closer than you think. And I think it's human nature coming off a 42-10 win over Dallas that you're feeling yourself pretty good. And everybody's telling you how great you are and putting you number one in the power rankings. But as you said, Dennis, you got to go in and you got to play.
Yeah, I mean, these are NFL football players still. I mean, they, you reach your own press clippings and then you get a little, false confidence. But these guys, they want to come out and win. They're at home. I mean, they're at home. They've come off a bye week. They've rested their legs a little bit. And they would love to come out and come up with this upset. So you got to go out and you got to just set the tone. You got to set the tone early. Weather, whatever it might be, whoever's playing, backups, you got to go out and set the tone.
Thanks to everybody who checked in on YouTube today. We'll be back with you after the game on the YouTube channel, KNBR.com, and we're going to hand it over to Greg and Tim, who will take you the rest of the way. Niners and the Browns, kickoff coming in about an hour. We'll have it all for you right here on The Sports Leader, but stay tuned because you got a McCaffrey touchdown streak. You got a Niners regular season winning streak. You got a 5-0 record, a whole lot on the line here as the Niners head out to the Factory of Sadness. More to come. Niners next, only here on The Sports Leader.